Any objections to that? First of all, let's take a look at the November special board minutes, and everybody read through those, I hope, and either approve or disapprove.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the minutes as printed from our last board meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded,
Was that the November one, or you were talking about both of them?
November, and both of them.
Both of them.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Next up, Mr. Clemens with the treasurer's report.
Well, we got a packet in there, and I'm gonna be talking to one that looks like an Excel spreadsheet. November one, there's no errors on it. There are a number of typos on the December one that we'll need to correct and send out. For November, we got the park maintenance, that's $1,100, this be down in operating expenses. That was. And then we have legal fees, Money House 125, QuickBooks 35, Evergy 3978, and getting a copy of the statement. That comes up to the $854.78. And then we had $162.99 interest income. So that, everything else is correct and on there. Do you have any questions in November? The expenses.
We'll approve that. Approving together.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve November income and balance sheet.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Greg gave his thumbs up, just in case you missed it. All right, we'll go with December then.
On the December one, we got income from the county, $42,250, which included the $5,000 from November that wasn't sent in previously. So that is all inclusive, both in December and the makeup of 5,000. The interest income was not $24,000 for the month. It was actually $162.04. And we did switch the CD from Armed Forces to mutual. For the percentage rate, we told them to go ahead and do that, whoever had the best one. The next one, the property sales, it was totally incorrect. We sold lot for $134,820 to Croucher, and we took in $500 interest money. So for the month, because the interest money, the earnest money is included in the set as a sale, that should be $135,320.58.
So Dan, I see on your liability sheet, she's got the $500 earnest money on there under your liabilities.
Right.
So just so that you notice that.
And then in program funds, we've got the title search that was left off. It should go into other expenses for $1,181. Everything else is correct on the spreadsheet as it's shown. So with that many errors, y'all want to wait until it's corrected before we approve it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Because it's the end of the year.
Yeah, Chad, we're gonna hang on to the December ones until we get a corrected spreadsheet. Did you catch that, Greg? Okay,
Just, Mr. Chairman, just for a point of discussion, since we've now, I assume that the balance sheet is correct. The financial statements, December 31. Now that we have that 400 and something thousand sitting in checking account, should we consider moving some of that and trying to get a little bit more interest income? It's laddering in with our CD somewhere, or
open the discussion.
we don't need that. Obviously, we can make the payments for the next few months or cover LCDC costs in the first quarter. We got plenty. I mean, that's just a thought.
Well, it looks like the other ones are about 250. If we took 250 off of the
and put it somewhere in between the CDs,
Right.
maturing in between the CDs we have now, so we always have liquidity close at hand.
Every 6 months or so.
Yeah, something to think about. I mean, it's just.
Do we know when are these? It's mutual one of them's new, I know, but. We're on a 6 month or a year.
I think we set them up to be,
We talked about that last
even
meeting.
if they were yearly, they were coming up every 6 months. The whole
Right.
idea was to cover that. I'm open to that. How much you wanna leave in the kitty?
Well, I don't know, we know we have a payment to make quarterly to the LCDC, and is there anything coming up that we foresee? We have the bill for,
Golden
Ongoing.
Golden Shovel,
Shovel, yeah.
but, I mean, that's a couple $100,000 would cover that, I would think. And then we have we would have a CD maturing pretty quickly thereafter,
What do we have, what are the amounts on CDs? Is
263 and 258,
that what it is?
that's the amounts of the two.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense then. We got
That's
four
just a
fifty.
thought, if we end up, I mean, if we can end up with a little bit more money, just more we have to go around.
How much are you advocating? Another 250,000 maybe go into that?
What's our first quarter's LCDC payment? 30,
Get that figured.
40,000?
Think a little bit more. Okay, I'll have to get that for you. So the quarterly payments, cause it's right off that top of my head, I'm not thinking.
Normally it's like
30,
30, it's like
781.
32.
Yeah, 32 is the
32,
budget, so let's say round it to 40, and
Yeah,
then
that
50
would
for,
cover it.
50 for,
And then the Golden Shovel.
Golden Shovel. If we leave 150 in there.
Yeah.
That would leave us excess,
Yeah.
and surely one of the banks would loan us the money on our CD if we needed it.
Well, the 20's already gone. The first 20, the golden shovel, and it will be,
That's in December.
yeah. It's in
Oh,
December.
that was,
Yeah,
that is
so
right,
the
so,
other
There was-
30 will be dependent on what we get, the result we get from golden shovel. And we'll discuss that a little later on anyway, too.
Are we gonna need to spend any more money on, from their outcome of what they come up with as far as the campaign?
Not that I'm aware of. We have another 30,000. We paid them 20. We've got another 30,000.
No, but I mean, some outside expenses of hiring some PR firm to help us with this, or are they gonna take care of all that?
They would be the PR firm,
Okay,
yeah,
and that's
that's
what,
why I interpreted
I mean,
what I
no
read.
signs or anything, or any of that?
no, as far as I understand,
It's
and I
maybe
mean,
still
there's
too early on that,
a
yeah.
possibility I could not be clear on that, but the 20,000 was to cover everything with the poll. And then the 30,000, but the 30,000 would be for the PR, but then we have to consider how much it costs to pay the county. Which is
To have the election.
50,000
Right.
to have the actual mail-in ballot.
But that leaves, that's still enough in the kitty.
It's still,
Yeah.
right.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Still enough in the kitty to cover
Okay.
all that.
And if we make a maturity somewhere in between the maturities we have now. Get a decent rate,
Just as long as we have enough to operate through 2025.
yeah, but those CDs come due in 25, so we can always roll that next one into our checking account if we had to. Or parts thereof.
Part there.
Okay.
Well, you wanna make a motion as to how much?
Yeah,
we're doing
I would
with
make a
CDs?
motion, we invest 250,000 in the checking account into a certificate of deposit not to exceed a year in length. And hopefully ladder it from that, and to attempt to ladder, without having exact dates, we want to ladder that in.
Now, are you advocating a third CD or just that? Okay.
Okay, so you said invest 250,000 to a CD for what?
Not more than 1 year. But laddered between the two we already have.
Okay.
And then best rate after that.
And
And then pick the one with the best rate after.
yes, yeah, with, obviously with the best rate, I think it would be. And it needs to be to our partners who are involved in economic development with us too. I think
Hey,
it's
Chris, I
important.
got a question for you. Do
Yeah,
you think, should that be with a different institution because of the $250,000 FDIC limit or whatever mutual uses that I don't think we want to exceed that unless we have some guarantee.
Yeah, they may have to pledge to us too. I would think that and Brian, I've been out of the banking business, but I'm pretty sure it still has, they may have to pledge to us. They may not want to pledge, but if they
you're worried about
could,
it, yeah.
they would be required by law to pledge to a governmental agency. So they have to pledge some security. So there wouldn't be any risk to us. If that, I don't know if you all
Okay.
understand, but banks are required by law to secure anything over FDIC insurance to municipalities. I think we are qualified as no, we are. A quasi-governmental agency, so they'd have to pledge, and I think if anybody wanted to bid on it, that'd be their responsibility to pledge to us. And they would pledge a security of some type, and
I think we're in two institutions now, aren't we?
Yeah, well, there, no, we've got two CDs at mutual.
Both are mutual.
They gave us the best rate.
Yeah.
On the renewal, so the $263,000 one was just done. That was the new one.
yeah, they would have to pledge then if they've got over 250,000. So we might check, because they should give us some documentation about pledging.
And if we do a CD at 250, we're at the max going in, any interest would be over. So maybe you could investigate that when we ask for the rate and make sure that we're understanding that correctly.
Yeah.
They try to say that.
Should we be taking that interest out, putting it in a checking account when it comes out then?
Okay.
Or putting it in the third?
Put it into checking account as income.
Yeah. That way we're not at risk and we don't have to worry about that.
So we're not rolling the interest.
So we're at risk now,
Keeping it
401,000,
at
but
the
we should be
FDIC.
pledged again, right? And that's something that Brian, you might check over with your folks there.
So so on this one, you're gonna roll the interest into the account. Check.
Into the checking
Into the
account.
checking account.
Okay.
Well, let's keep it in commerce. That's right. Is that where the checking account is?
Yes.
Just
Good question. Primary and secondary.
get her a rate then on the yearly rate
With
for
commerce.
the balance.
I would think you still wouldn't want to bid it out to everybody, just for only transparent, just let everybody bid, we have a next month CD.
Then you
And that
can't
way-
roll the proceeds. I mean, that you can do it manually.
Yeah, you manually just cut a check at the maturity and put the interest back in.
We did that in December, didn't we? Rollover. So the 6 months on the 263,000 just started.
I don't know if the rules for a thrift or savings and loan are different than what they are for the banks too. They could be.
No, they'd be the same.
Yeah. You made the motion?
Yes.
Okay, I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
Do you have any questions when I'm ready before we go?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Anything else?
That's everything.
Okay. The next one, we'll discuss December and January.
Yes,
The question.
I will send out a updated spreadsheet.
And did we, probably in the past time, a year ending, it's kind of a,
Yeah, that's all in the December. It's just a matter of some.
Yeah, the December has the
some in the
year
right
to
place.
date summary. in it.
okay. Then we move on to Miss Lisa, you've had a busy month.
Yes, it has. Let's see, our projects and leads, we've had a total of 6 leads in December, of which 2 became active. We submitted for Project Ironman and Project Apollo, for which we submitted, both of them, we submitted the Leavenworth Business and Technology Park. Ironman was leading, or they're both in the energy manufacturing industry. And then for the 2 or 3 that we did not, is that the number right? Hold on. For the ones that we did not submit, there were projects in the battery recycling space, the life science industry, and an electronic component manufacturer. One of the projects, Immortality, it's actually a business that's downsizing. They're moving from North Kansas City into Linwood. They're just two people, it's a couple. They're purchasing a property to live on and work out of. They've already talked to the state. We're connected by the state actually. And so we now have a relationship with them, and they are okay with me checking in on them every once in a while and kind of to update them on, you know, if they're gonna make any commitments of new equipment and people to let us know so we can help them anyway. At this point, just communication.
What area of beverages?
It's healthy. Healthy,
I'm with you.
yes, thank you.
Do we have anybody in our business parks that lives and works in it? At any of our business parks
Better flavor, something.
Business park that lives and works,
in the building? I mean, this, what, the way you described that is saying.
yeah.
Live and make it in essentially their home.
Yes, they're purchasing a property that has a home and then they'll have a small production facility on that property.
Okay. I don't think we're zoned to do anything like that.
Yeah, they'll have to, they've already talked to this county about it. They'll have to go through that process.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if they were in Linwood or they're in the county. This sounds like a county thing.
Probably, I should
What matters.
learn exactly where, but that, yeah.
And I was asking just for my own knowledge, all of our business parks, we're not set up to do anything like that. Okay. I didn't think.
If nothing else, they can always split the plat and have one for residential, one for light industry.
But we still would have to get SUP, I think. Yeah. Of course, we have, you know, a project that we're excited about, you know, I don't really want to take anything away from George. But it's kind of a project, you know, project transport. We're excited about that. I'll just say, we did send out a press release on Friday. We sent it out to both the Leavenworth Times and the Mirror, so, we might see something in the paper about that. Ongoing projects, 16 are active. The ones on the ongoing list, I wanted to mention transport, and the other one that seems to be recently active is Project River. So all I can say is that there's continual conversation. It's in the energy industry. Just had a meeting with that company and the state to just kind of get an update. They're still working on the financial part, which they thought they had secured, but they're kind of working on that again. So still moving forward. We shall see. So a wrap up for 2024, we had 59 total leads, of which we responded to 33 and 16 remain active. You can see on our 3-year impact model under 2024, we were able to help businesses save $964,142. And those existing businesses invested over $7 million in Leavenworth County. With new capital investment for 2024 was 2.7 million. Of course, a lot of that is due to project transport. And we received a total of 24 requests for available buildings, which below on the bottom, that's updated. Most of these requests were for square footage between 200,000 and 300,000, which I think was different than another year.
Next year.
Yeah, so interesting data to have. Upcoming things,
Lisa?
yes.
Real quick, I think there seems to be a math problem here.
Oh,
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
where?
3-year impact, 2024, the grants, loans and tax savings is 964 million, not
Oh geez,
964,000.
that's my fault. I
Yeah.
see it. You're right.
They've
Big
been doing a lot of
difference.
good work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, that's it. Was there that it, or did you?
Well, I mean, I assume that probably, you know, we'll see how
The totals are right.
It didn't add up into the below numbers. That's a single number. So that's just, I added 2 zeros. So sorry about that. I will make that change.
You pass the test, the rest of it's. They had a good year.
Okay, all right. Upcoming, Diana and I will be heading to Topeka on the 6th of February for KEDA Legislative Day. So we'll be sending out some invites soon. That was on our list of things to do soon for legislators to invite them to lunch. It's a chance to get to know them, to develop those relationships, to raise important topics for Leavenworth County. Well, I will be working on scheduling my marketing trips for the year. I just have one that's already scheduled, which is a next gen conference with several site consultants, but that will be here in Kansas City. So I already secured a place and offered to KCADC to be helpful in any way I can, to, number one, be helpful, welcoming, and then also give more opportunities to talk about Leavenworth County. We will begin, it is almost time to start on budget season again. So, I will be very interested to see what you all want me to include in the budget, how, I'm sure you want to send a request to the county. That'll just be a process that we'll have to discuss, and I'll be looking for your guidance, of course. And I think unless there are any other questions, that's my report for today. Oh, except our annual meeting. Thank you to those that came to our annual meeting on Friday. We feel like we had some great responses. People seem to really like the speaker, David Pruente, who talked about the FIFA 2026, which is coming very soon. I think we had good food. We had a good turnout. What do you know what the number was? About 150 people showed up. So, I don't know, let us know, any of your thoughts. It always helps us in planning for the next one.
I do have a question not about your projects, but in the industrial park in Tonganoxie, I noticed that IST has their buildings listed for sale.
What?
And the building that they bought from S&S Alloy. Do we have any, is there obligation that we have for vacant lots with them I don't know what's going on at all, but they are for sale. There are signs up. All three buildings at the same time.
We're looking for fallbacks if they.
Well, if we have any obligations, or are we stuck, what do we have going on with vacant lots that are our responsibility? As for the buildings, they're not our responsibility. And if we have, I know we dealt with him on other lots, and if he has obligations to us, well, I think we have some responsibility to find out what's going on.
Mhm.
That was all done in one day last week.
Mm.
And you can find them on area real estate. They're listed for sale.
Okay. It's disappointing, but we'll check into it. That will make, more
Area Real
Inventory.
Estate Advisors LLC.
area, say that again?
AREA, Area Real Estate Advisors LLC.
Okay.
You can see those listed for sale.
Okay.
But I think that if there are any lot obligations that we are connected with, that I think we'll know what those are.
Good question on the budget. Are we gonna have the bond issue, golden shovel and all that done before the budget has to be submitted, or are we gonna submit a budget pending? to
I
fund, or
I think
what?
there are a lot of questions on that. I think the budget, if I remember correctly, I usually get that sent to them, it's in summertime. So it sounds like we could maybe have some idea of where we're going, which way, if we're going to pursue the mail-in ballot or not, so that might affect that, so we'll have some time.
Stage two. Moving stage two, we'll have more information and everything we get, money we've spent with them, everything that they gather will be ours to keep. Whether we decide to go forward with the election this year or next year. For instance, Lansing was gonna go forward with a school bond election, which I believe they are not going to now, is that correct?
Not my jurisdiction, but I think so.
Okay,
And the school is a home rule, it's different than the city, and that's where we work, so we would have to. Get with the superintendent or one of the school board members to find out
I thought there was something.
Yeah, it was in the paper.
It was in the paper, they're not going there
They're
anymore.
not going forward with the bond issue.
And was that
Probably
due to
a good
the
idea.
results of the poll that they put out?
Yeah.
Lisa and Doug, I got a question too. Do we need to reach back out to the county and bug them for a meeting? before the budget comes to where, because they always say we don't communicate, and I know they kind of pushed us off last fall. And then with the election, I thought we talked about holding up a little bit, but do we at least need to set up a meeting with the agenda being funding, possible elections, if they wanted, an agenda or something like that, and not wait until April, May, or June when budget session comes?
We're gonna meet with them again, or somebody, we're gonna submit for that other $40,000.
CDC.
$50,000 that they told us I'm not having very positive thoughts about it, but we're gonna ask for that $60,000 that was left over. Where they put us off and told us we'd have to submit it again in January. Then we've been getting messages basically telling us to hold on until everybody's seated. They're seated now. But I'm all for you. I think we need to go forward and at least ask. I get the impression they may not. We're not the only agency that wasn't funded last year. As you're well aware of, there were a lot of them. So I think we're all curious about what they're gonna do with their money.
How many new commissioners are there? Two.
They told us to wait until after everybody was seated. Well, they're seated now. I just think I think we need to get on their schedule and, send something to Mark in writing. And when they come back at budget time and say, well, we don't know what's going on. We've got the emails where we tried to meet with you guys. There's no one, I don't think, on the call or in the meeting today from the county. Is that correct?
We're waiting for them to appoint another member. That's been open for some time.
But normally they have one of the commissioners too that participates or listens in. Now that Vicky's been replaced, well, Vicky's not going to participate. And I thought Mike Steben was going to, but
Mike Smith,
I don't know.
I think I heard something about Mike Smith.
Mike
being
Smith is going to, yeah.
that
Okay.
person.
Okay. Well, probably the appointment of someone else should be on the agenda too, maybe. Where we have a full board per our agreements.
We have what, one or two vacancies technically? Just one?
Just one.
We can preface that and say, hey, we want to talk about the board seat and moving forward.
We could even put it as, we talk about the seat and update the new commissioners on our activities.
Sure.
Yeah.
That might hurt their interest a little bit more.
And also this, if it goes before, if the vote goes to a mail-in ballot, it has to be submitted by the county, correct? So we need them to be on board and updated with that. So that's another reason.
I think any of the cities can do it also. The county or the cities, I thought.
Okay.
I guess I'm kind of looking for direction by who they appoint to fill the other spot. Traditionally, it's just been members from the community, but the last time it was actually a county employee who took the spot, which is fine. I'm curious which way they're going.
At the last county commission meeting, they said that they are going to meet this week and decide who's going to take what board positions that were vacated by Doug and Vicky. They're gonna divvy them up. Mike said that he would like to either be LCDC or the Port Authority, whichever two Vanessa Reed and Willie don't want, whichever one they don't want.
Do you catch that? Okay. But I agree with you, since we are gonna have to face the county commissioners with regard to a vote, though it's not pressing right now, but with regard to pressing forward with our funding, whatever, yeah, we need to get started on that. Thank you. Anything else for Lisa? Regional Transportation Plan? Greg, are you up on that?
Yeah, I don't have any updates on it. It's kind of been slow over the Christmas. I was trying to get some updates on the interchange and I think Leslie's been off and I was able to get a hold of her. I think she just came back today. So hopefully I'll have some updates on that in the February meeting.
Thank you. The Industrial Site Committee?
I guess that's me. I apologize. I haven't been here in a couple of months. Definitely wanted to come today and give a quick update. And then maybe ask for some additional direction. So we haven't met as a full committee since early last year, but we've had some subcommittee work, and we've gotten to the point where we've developed a rating system of how we want to rate the parcels that would ultimately make it in the report. We've also, through the county GIS system, have identified tracts of ground that are somewhere around 155 acres. There's a lot of them. We may even go back and enlarge that tract size, but the reason we landed on 150 was because when we went to 160, that's a quarter section of land, and there's hardly any quarter sections in Leavenworth County that are 160 acres. By the time you take the right of way out, they end up around 155. So we've done that. We are at a point now that we want to use the rating system with a smaller committee that will meet and kind of divvy that up. We met with Soma-san at the county GIS department, and she's been a great resource. We've been kind of given permission to utilize that data. So one of our investors has agreed to host that through Esri, which is the base product of the GIS system. And what that'll allow the subcommittee to do is to use that GIS data, identify the tracks, save the tracks, and have all of that information electronically, because we don't want to go through and print out plot maps of every single one of those tracks to go into the report. With that said, we have not transferred that data yet, but we wanted to talk to this board about all the things that are transpiring right now real quickly, having to do with funding and direction. We recently within LCDC stood up a government advocacy committee. We're a little concerned that maybe because of objectives here right now in the immediate tied to funding and elections and things like that, we don't want to dilute our volunteer pool. So we come to you today to ask, do you feel like we still have the task at hand to identify the property moving forward, or should we take a little bit of a pause to kind of see how things settle out over the next couple of months? It's just, I thought I'd open myself up for questions, see what you guys thought. We have a lot of the same players in a lot of these same discussions. So we were concerned, Lisa and I met last week and talked a little bit about it. We're going to be asking a lot of the same people to do a lot of the same things. So questions?
My initial question would be, despite reservations on whether we can have the election this year or not for us, I'd still want the information available. Let's say in a wild case scenario, it happens, we get the election and we get the money, that even puts us in a positive threat. However, moving forward, we wouldn't have enough money to do anything with initially anyway. Regardless of what we bring, what is the mill levy? Greg, you generally have numbers on that. Mill levy is worth how much?
1 mil is worth about $1 million, $1.1 million.
Okay.
I'm kind of like you. I guess we've gotten this far. We ought to probably have something at least ready to go in case maybe some money from Trump or something falls out of the sky. No, that's not going to happen, but if you're ready to go, you're more likely to be able to do something.
Yeah, so we can at least answer it. In my mind, if you want to take a couple of months or a quarter off or something, that gets us through what we're going through right now. We'll know more in 2 months than we do now about whether we're even going to put ourselves up for election.
Because you'll be through the survey period, is that?
Yes, then we'll be into spending the other money with regard to marketing and what have you, actually going out for a mill levy and everything.
Okay.
That also relates into meeting with county commissioners, the idea, I cannot believe that they would object to anything we want to put forward, because they've encouraged us to find our own source of funding. But that's an assumption on my part.
Well, a significant part of the budget in the ask for a TAC is industrial park. So in my mind, it would make a little sense if we had progress.
A plan.
And some type of plan that we can at least deliver as our deliverable to the voters, that we can't tell them this lie. And I think that'd be an incorrect thing to do, but we could tell them that we've worked and here's the plan, here's what we're trying to achieve. but without that, I mean, there'd be very little detail.
Let me ask you this, on a 155 acre lot. Of course, it'll have to be generic, location, but what would be the cost, the target cost for 155 acres?
For development,
Mhm.
oh man,
Yeah.
that's,
Well, there's
That's a very
132
open-ended
acres for
question,
Sale
because-
right next to town, you get $2 million.
yeah, but if
That's
it's
the
flat, it's one
idea.
price. If it's not so flat, you don't really decide, it depends on the ultimate.
Okay, so anywhere up to $2 million plus.
Oh, I was gonna shoot a number out of closer to 15 to 20 million
I
dollars at
think
a
we were
minimum.
shooting at 10 million.
Yeah,
For the project
yeah,
in the budget that we had a conversation on.
yeah.
So we've got about $750,000 tied up in CDs. 1 mil would be 1 million. We still don't have enough to buy a lot.
No,
You
but
could bond
moving
it.
forward, there's two things happen. One, it gives us a income on a yearly basis, if you wanna look at it that way. The tax comes to us and everything, so we can build that bank. We can tell the people this is what we intend to do with it. And we're completely transparent about the fact we're doing, we don't have to answer the county commissioners every year for even a budget to fund our staffing.
Well, let me ask some of these guys who've been around here for years and years. If we get the bond where we're a taxing entity, would we then have the authority to do a bond and make payments out of that taxing entity?
We have the Port Authority has that ability right now to float a bond.
Yeah, but I'm not sure anybody would grab it if we don't have a steady income.
And that's what part of that 400, or
So we gotta
going
hear-
from memory, but 400,000 or 500,000 of that annual bond or annual levy was specifically for industrial park. So that $500,000 would be some level of debt service.
And that is a strong argument for having a taxing entity authorization from the county. Thank you. I just want to get that clear in my mind, but
I would say too that the committee's heading towards much larger tracts of ground for development than what we've seen in the past. And a lot of that's due to some of the folks that we came in and asked, we had a bunch of people, experts come in and talk to us to kind of get a foundation under us. Dan was involved in a lot of those conversations. And we talk about 160 acres. We think we could be looking at a minimum twice that. And maybe as much as 4 times that.
Yep.
Of what we see, when you go, like, for example, if you go across the river and see what's going on in the data center space. They're buying up thousands of acres to do those projects. And, I think we would anticipate, I know since the committee last met, the state of Kansas is considering some economic incentives that are in the data center space alone. For projects over $600 million. And those are projects that are gonna want 800,000, 1,200 acres. So when you start asking about cost, it's really hard to put a number on, but I think the committee would be looking at some subsection to the report to say, hey, we identified 145 tracks, we pared it down to 25, and oh, by the way, or maybe we pared it down to 10. Of these 10, 3 of them are contiguous to one another, so they could all be taken down as one larger tract. So,
Well, and this is an education opportunity for us with the voters. Should we be successful, we still have a hell of an education to convince everybody in the voting public and everything ongoing to tell them what we're trying to do, what we are doing, what we're gonna accomplish. If we ever wanna play with Shawnee, if we ever wanna play with Lenexa, if we ever wanna play with all the other. It doesn't come for free, but we have the ability to get our toe in the door. The acreage available in Tongi, that's right next to the existing business park that we became aware of last fall.
2,000 acres there.
Well, there's at least 400 acres that would be immediately available because all the utilities are right there at the corner.
right,
That would be an ideal purchase, just to protect our ability to expand right there. We've already done most of the work. They're sort of moving dirt, utilities there. Otherwise, you're right, it gets to be hellishly expensive.
mhm.
And that's what companies are looking for, is that work's already done. The work's already done. So something like that, I would think would come up to the top of the list, would go up higher, quicker.
Yeah, I think there's 1,200 contiguous acres right there
Yes,
that we had originally, for years, considered off the map, because it wasn't the previous owner wasn't in any position to sell or didn't have any desire to sell it. Now that, there is.
But the 400 we're talking about could be developed quickly if it came down to it.
Yeah,
relatively.
potentially.
And Golden Shovel is on the hook during the second phase to help us with that public education.
Mhm.
So what's to help me understand? So what's the schedule on the survey of when you would have the survey results back?
The poll goes out by the end of this month. And I think, oh gosh, you can remind me of,
January
thank
27th
you.
is the week of polling, it's January 27th.
We're gonna get into more details.
So you're gonna have, you would have some ability, or you're gonna be just determining direction middle of February likely.
Yes, and the reason for that is because there was a date identified as April or May for the mail-in ballot to go out. And you have to let the county know 90 days before that
Right.
to initiate that process. That's where these dates, that's why they're so compact.
So in light of that, because you brought something up that I hadn't even thought about, it might be really good for the committee to come together and put at least a summary document together that could be used as a piece to reinforce the need for the mill levy. We don't, and I wouldn't see that as being anything that would identify any specific pieces of property, but maybe talk about what the direction is that the county would be proceeding to purchase.
And the pros of following that direction, what the ability is to give us.
Okay.
You know, because regardless of what the survey comes back with and everything, and hopefully everything's positive, we go forward and everything, it's still incumbent upon each one of us in our communities to educate the populace out there, because it's gonna go for the popular vote. So what we're really trying to do and why. I mean, I think this is a rare opportunity, for good or bad, hopefully for good, even if we're put off a year due to other election considerations.
So maybe while we're getting all the data hosted, we could go ahead and move forward and get that process started. I don't know how long that will take. That we could focus on getting you folks a document that would support the bond or support the election. And then we could, after that, then really get into the rating of the system and things like that.
Mhm.
Okay,
And Golden Shovel is going to help lead our marketing and who we're talking to and who we're actually spending money on reaching.
Yes, they have some data. They're asking a little bit of help from us on lists of people, leaders and people in the community, but they have some of that.
And she's gonna share more with us, once you're done, Harley, with your.
sure, absolutely.
And Lisa, we are talking Leavenworth County wide, all of the
Yes.
registered voters.
But we don't want to spend money on reaching all of the registered voters. We want to spend money on the people who actually will vote in the election.
They're
Yes.
targeting high propensity voters,
The
so
ones that are-
ones that have voted in the last two of the last four elections.
Consecutive voters, yeah.
Are you finished with what you bring?
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys had no further questions, that gives a little bit cleaner direction forward. Looks like we'll look to maybe start the rating systems somewhere in the next 3 months, but we could also refocus just a little bit now to work on the summary document for you guys.
Thanks, Harley.
Thank you.
Anybody else got anything for her? Okay, Lisa, we had a meeting last week?
Yes.
Golden Shovel. And, they had some requests of us and everything like that, as much online questions you were asking. You're right, we don't go out for a county-wide every voter, that's not the initiative, the idea is to look at people who have voted. And we have a particular person we're reaching out to in mind, surprisingly enough, that's somebody 55 years of age or older. Typically in this county, it's Republican. What were the other demographics?
Yeah, homeowners, but, oh, wait, I did not get that
So,
together.
do you want me
Thank you.
to- yeah.
Yes, please, thank you.
Okay.
Notes.
so as I said, they're targeting high propensity voters, those who have voted in 2 of the last 4 elections. And that just happens to be people who are 55 plus, and a majority of them are Republican. So we aren't necessarily targeting that demographic, that is the demographic. So polling will commence on January 27th. There will be, stakeholder focus groups as well, which is why we have to put together a list of community leaders for them to target. There will also be a digital survey, so there will be phone calls, an online survey, and stakeholder focus groups. Polling will be complete on February 3rd, and on February 7th, they will meet with us again with their findings reviewed.
That's a question.
Sure.
So on the polling with it being online and things like that, and I fit that demographic you just described. But I wonder, does that same demographic, would they respond favorably to these online surveys? Or less than favorably? I mean, yes, they're voters, but
We don't know, that's why they're.
yeah,
They're using both phone calls
Okay.
and online for that very
okay,
reason.
okay, thank you.
Because some of the contact information for those voters are landlines.
Yeah, yeah.
So if they call somebody that's a member of the LCPA, did we exclude ourselves from the survey?
I don't think so.
I don't see why.
Yeah.
I don't think we should purposely, if we come up with.
Where's the list? Where's the one presenting it?
Well, if they call
We
me,
did
I'm
a
gonna
bit from
answer it. I'm not an official member of this board. I
We're
see.
voting, members voting for
Yeah.
public, there's no reason why we can't. Now, I'm not saying we should all put our names on that list, that's not what we're looking for here.
I'm just asking the question.
Didn't they also have ask of us to provide some names of what the stakeholders?
Yes.
That's what I'm working on, and so I hate to, I just would like to make sure I'm giving a comprehensive list. I've started, today with looking at should all the commissioners and, and the city council people, administrators. We also thought about some of the directors of some of the smaller, nonprofit organizations like, what is, Sherry Grogan is a part of the county. Not Grow Leavenworth, rural, thank you, whoever said that, yeah, rural Leavenworth, some of those.
We have the directors of economic development included with that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But I appreciate, that's what I need, is make sure I'm including all the right people.
Right, some of the LCDC members,
I would say all the investors of
I
LCDC.
have that list, okay.
they're invested in our future as much as anybody.
And remind me, they were wanting a fairly short list, weren't they?
They
Like
didn't
10 to
want.
20 people?
Is it only that?
I remember it being pretty short, but Diana, do you remember?
You are correct. They did not want.
But I've got a problem, if we came up with 40 and then we narrowed it down 10 to 20, because I don't want to group it. I don't want to pick everybody that we know is gonna
Right.
give us the answer we want.
Right.
Right.
We want an honest group out of this, or come up with a group of 40 and let them pinpoint 10.
Right.
They don't know the demographics on those people outside of that.
So with that, I would think that you'd wanna make sure there were people picked from each of the areas, the different communities within Leavenworth County. What else?
About the schools.
Well, Doug, maybe you're right. Maybe you give them a list of 40 or 50 people with their titles and say, hey, you know,
Pare them down.
you're the experts.
Yeah. Because their job is to give us the answer, not the answer we want, but to give us the answer.
Yeah, I'm afraid of the same thing you are. It's, you can load them up with numbers from the board and be a problem.
I would be a little concerned with, it sounded like the school district survey in Lansing was dismal. That there was a huge pushback of, you've raised my taxes enough. Now, that's the school district who just raised taxes in Lansing somewhere around 57% last year.
One budget
Asking-
was over 60%.
Yeah, asking again for more money, so there, that may not be a parallel response, but
And I understand they wanted to extend the current bond as well, another
Yes.
20 years. So it was a double whammy, trying to raise taxes and extend it.
And I wanted to point out that of those voters, that they will be targeting, they don't necessarily need to push them to a positive answer. They just want to push them to neutral at least.
But, and to me, answering you, Dan, you deal with that Lansing all the time, it's also an education opportunity to them. Yes, it's easy to vote for a bond issue to build a pool, harder to vote for countywide bond issues to fund an industrial park. Which one is gonna provide a bigger benefit to the entire populace of Leavenworth County? So we need to be thinking about both. It's easy to vote for that pool. That's not resolving as many tax issues towards homeowners.
And understand the difference with the pool, since you brought that up specifically. That action was for raising a sales tax. It had nothing to do with the property. And because we were very sensitive that as soon as you say property tax raise, you're gonna have a room full of people.
Right.
Sales tax is everybody that buys within the city limits. And it was a lot more palatable than thought, and that's why it passed.
Thank you.
I would think just, and having spent some time as an elected official as well, people support quality of life issues a lot more than they support things like sewer treatment plants, because they don't see that. They just flush the toilet. It's done, gone, right? But they vote on things that like pavement in front of their house, and so it's drawing that parallel to what everyone in this room knows about the importance of a business park that's creating jobs. How do we then convey that same passion back out to the voting community that, quite honestly, through the LCDC board knows that I spend a lot of time perusing, not commenting in, but perusing a lot of these different community groups that can get very just downright hateful, but it is very apparent that the general populace, and I won't say everybody, but there's a general populace that doesn't maybe either fully understand economic development or just reels back at economic development. So we're gonna have to do a really good job of educating people about what economic development is all about.
And
And I
the
think
time
that's where
frame.
Golden Shovel.
But
Yeah,
that's,
yeah.
they specialize in that, so I
Yes.
think they're used to dealing with that too.
Right, and Harlan, they indicated that they are going to give a very honest opinion as to whether, recommendation as to whether
Right.
they should move forward
Okay.
with this or not. And it's in their best interest, if it really doesn't look like it's gonna work, to be truthful.
Sure.
So they recognize that.
Yeah, they wanna go back for us a year from now. That's a choice we make.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think what you're talking in a nutshell is people are more interested in the bang for their buck, immediate bang for the buck, whereas most of what we're looking at is the bang for the buck for the
10 years
next
from now.
10 years, the next 20 years for the county as a whole. I understand, but that's where it's our job, not necessarily just this committee, but our job to educate people that we're better off, we can look what the advantage of Shawnee, look what happened to Wyandotte, look what's happened to all these places that were poor children 20 years ago, if you wanna look at it that way, look what's happened. Tonganoxie, even within the county, look what's happened in Tonganoxie with all the growth and everything they've had.
It
So-
definitely helps the ability to invest in the quality of life issues as well.
It makes it much easier.
I think one of the questions from the county commissioners, if we pass this bond, is that going to equate to any type of decrease of their needs? Is this all going to be a new funding source on top of the county? Or is the county going to reduce theirs by, say, $500,000 if we get our $1 million bond issued?
That'll be up to them.
Exactly, but I mean, if we go into trying to educate the people of the county, we need to know things like that, because somebody's gonna ask.
That's a great point, because then you're presenting a net $500,000
Right, exactly.
potentially.
Well, the cities wouldn't contribute.
They would or wouldn't.
Well, we talked about if we got that as a funding source, the monies that coming from each of the city would go back to the cities.
So you wouldn't see that LCDC would have to request that funding annually from the communities?
We've just talked, I think that was something that we'd have to iron out at another time.
Right.
The problem, that is a big question, but the problem is the Port Authority, I guess it depends on how much they're going to provide to LCDC. If at one point new people are on the board and they decide not to fund, then LCDC has to have funding from somewhere. Does that make sense?
I think that's one of the questions that the exec committee had at LCDC is that, what does our budget look like after a mill increase? If successful mill increase, are we asking Lansing, Tonganoxie, Baser to come back, city of Leavenworth? Because if we had all of that up, then how does that divvy up the pie from your 1 mill?
But it's almost like hitting our citizens twice. You're getting hit by the city to donate, and then you've got the 1 mil that's coming into the same source. And, you know, it's almost double taxation.
Well, if you said the city's got that back, that's just. Out of the blue here, the city's got that back, we still would have to educate and remind them that it's their choice who they sit on this committee. This committee is still a public committee and everything like that, so they're not losing control over it. They're just guaranteeing, in fact, their ability to have this funding moving forward.
It'd be interesting for someone to run the numbers on. Are we at the end of the day, if you reallocate all of these funds to where now the cities aren't sending money to LCDC, it's coming out of the 1 mil. Are you now all of a sudden asking the taxpayers, you know, at the end of the day, it's not even gonna be a tax increase? Because we're just asking to allocate economic development funds to the Port Authority directly.
Instead
And
of-
that might even be more palatable to the
I think
voter
that
at the
was
end
our
of the day.
original intention. with
Yes.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah, original intention was that way, you know, we're not cyclically going through this discussion. Where 5 years ago, we lost 50% of our budget, and then we lost all of it. And it's not that the county commissioners didn't warn us. They didn't, we weren't the only ones, I mean, think of all the small organizations in the county of Leavenworth.
Mhm.
The what is it, the animal, organization, ASPCA just got their funding, they've been doing nothing but fundraising since. But all the other small organizations who lost their funding completely, county commissioners didn't warn us, they did.
But that's a good point, you know, we need to look at what are the fallout and the delta. It may be that the bottom line is $0.25 mil difference once the city keeps all their stuff and the county drops their stuff. You know, there may be an offset.
To my understanding, that was all the second phase. Everything we
Yeah.
just talked about was
Yeah.
after the polling. I think you're getting way ahead of the.
sure.
They were gonna help council on how we narrowed it down to focus on those
Funnel it
people
down.
that were voting and how you sold it.
But I guarantee when you go to the county commissioners and start talking to them about this, that's conversation's gonna come up.
But I don't think they're gonna give you a meeting until you know what the answer is. They pushed us off for 2 months already. 2 months they push you off, you'll have the answers.
Well, but to your point, Dan, I think their mill levy, poor economic development, I mean, it seems like it has gone in and around anywhere from like 0.3 to 0.65. It varies year to year on how much money that they're allocating towards economic development. So I would say similarly, I mean, you could probably go and jump right into Lansing budget and tell us exactly how many points of a mill LCDC's participation is in the Lansing budget, and Vernon could do that in Baser.
But I'm saying
And Longview, so.
collectively,
Yeah.
what they add
Yeah.
up to. So if you take the 6.3 from the county, and let's say all of them collectively is a 0.2, well, that's 0.8. So the delta is, you know,
That to me is a lot easier to sell than a pole mill.
and saying that, you know, that gives us the ability to issue bonds and pay it. And that's what we don't have right now, because we don't have a steady income funding.
No, and that's the education part, and we're a step beyond where we need to be, where Lisa's trying to get the information at this point. As to who we should turn it over, which names we should turn over to Golden Shovel. Or which groups we should turn over, and any help from any and all of you would be graciously accepted, I believe. Because at the end of the day, depending on what else is going up for election in that same election. It may not be the wisest choice to go forward. Unless I want to this year. You know, that's why we broke it up into 2 pieces as per Chris's advice some time ago. But we have to give them some answers by next Saturday.
Yes, 24th, which is in a couple days.
Mhm.
You have enough where you can get some names? You have enough people?
I think paring it down to the 40 even is gonna be tough, figuring out which ones, but I'll put a list together and try to send it to you
Well,
guys.
if you got too much, like instead of getting every council member
Yeah,
on the
just-
city, do the one that represents.
The chair,
Right.
right? Okay,
Yeah, we don't, I want a positive answer, but I don't wanna load the machine up, so to speak. All right, any other questions for Miss Lisa? Or Golden Shovel in this particular case? We could have asked them to join us today, but they can get. They can spend a lot of time talking about a lot of things. I didn't want to take you guys all afternoon.
Go down rabbit holes.
Okay, let's reach out to our affiliated partners in. Sorry, didn't mean to leave you. George, you got anything? Tonganoxie?
Yep, sorry, hey guys, couple of quick updates, Roush Coleman, they're doing the 140 some homes, they've pulled a little over 20 building permits and have been pretty active, at the end of the year, they did let us know that Roush Coleman was acquired by Lennar Homes out of Miami, Florida, and on the builder top 100 list, Lennar is the #2 company in the country. Roush Coleman, for I guess comparison's sake, was number 21 or 24 on the list. Doesn't really impact what they're doing in our project area, but I think it just shows how strong of a company Roush Coleman is, and they'll continue with an arm that does marketing and front end development, entitlement work on property. So I know that they're interested in other communities in Leavenworth County. At least that's what we've been hearing. So glad to have that going. DSM continues. They're still projecting to be operational third quarter this year. So excited to see that. Wanted to offer just a little bit of clarity quickly on the IST, Travis Pappenberg. I just recently talked to Travis. It actually sounds like he sold the IST companies to a private equity firm about a year and a half ago, and he had retained ownership interest in the facilities, and he is looking to sell those now to generate some capital, do some other projects. I didn't think to ask him if that meant the other lot he had acquired in Urban Hest, but I can certainly circle back with him on that. The only other thing, it's really early in the process, but I know that I informed this group in the past that the city unfortunately had to go to litigation with the county on an annexation issue for property near the business park. There was a bench trial held on that before the end of the year. Early returns on that looks like the city has a favorable ruling from district court on that, but it's too early to tell, and the county certainly has an appeal period or the right to reserve to appeal, and so not really hearing a lot on that, but we're remaining optimistic at the city level at least. So, and that's about it. I want to shout out to our public works crews for tackling I guess Blair is what we call this winter weather event that we had, and our folks certainly take a beating on social media, but clearing a foot of snow that fell with a series of ice before and after is not an easy task, and I'm sure every other city is going to report the same. So thanks.
Thanks, George. Let's see, Penny, see you're on from Leavenworth. Anything to offer?
Yes, thanks. A few quick updates. It is cold, so I'll echo what George had to say. Please, everyone, stay safe. Our police and fire folks are out there if you need them, but rather keep them safe as well. The city of Leavenworth actually is doing a push on some police department hiring. You'll probably be hearing some radio ads for some of our open positions, so that's something we're working on in the new year to help everyone. And then the City Commission is meeting tonight for a study session. They will be receiving an update on the Leavenworth Comprehensive Plan 2030. These are broad areas of effort. That includes economic development and infrastructure. So the city will be learning more about the efforts taken in 2024 tonight. Those are the only updates I have.
Any questions for Penny, anybody? As usual, thank you, Penny. Lansing, we got a couple of you here. Who wants to? Josh, Dan?
All right, I can take that. I'm trying to find some information before I start speaking, but, because I don't have it off the top of my head. So we have got a couple of projects going on that we're excited about. First off, as you are probably aware, we annexed 136 acres. It was voluntary annexation. And the purpose of that annexation was to develop residential. So we are looking at about 100 acres of, about 95 acres of developable land. That is going to be hopefully turned into residential. We are going to be taking the RHID, beginning of the RHID project process for the council next week, probably. Definitely, and we will, we'll go from there. In addition to that, the same sewer project that is enabling that housing developments potentially come through is also reaping rewards for the city. We have an application on file now for 35 acres of industrial land. We'll just rezone that to industrial and wait for the development to occur, so might be seeing some of that come back to us here in the next couple of months to try to activate that space. And that's about it.
That track he was talking about, the plans as they stand right now, they haven't been approved, but it's 412 houses. New housing.
On how many acres?
About 90 something developed.
Yeah, let's call it 95.
They're leaving a lot of green space between the neighbors to help.
That application for rezoning is still to go before the planning commission. We'll see what happens when it gets to the planning commission, to the council. So don't make promises I can't keep.
But as long as it makes it through that, I think we've got the support from the city because we know that we're short housing.
Well, we may be beating it to death, but Josh, that's a real good example where investment in sewer leads to industrial development. That's the sort of thing we need to educate people on. So this is why the understructure, underground, overground, whatever it is, has to be done before we can make the bang for the buck.
Yeah, and in terms of time frame, because I mean, that project was approved right before I got on board and we finished it up in June of last year. And so there's really good returns on that, right? It's not, hey, build it and 10 years later, it's build it in less than a year later. We got somebody who's trying to take advantage of that.
The only thing I would add from the municipal aspect point of view is Lansing has its own fire department now. The fire district one has contracted with Lansing to provide fire service to some of the townships until they're fully on speed personnel. So you might be seeing some things for Lansing fire people and some of the townships as a result of that, but Lansing does have its own fire department now.
Thank you. Anything else for you guys? Any questions for them? Is anybody else on for Baser? So I guess you're up now.
You know what? I spoke to the city administrator about trying to get someone from the staff to be on board because I'm not there every day. So it's hard for me to share, real specifics. What I can say is that Baser was cited in the newspaper for its snow removal. And then, Baser continues to grow. Now I wrote down some thoughts, because this is, getting close to time being maybe be replaced on this board. In 2024, Baser did more than what it's ever done in the last 17 years. They really stepped up. So I told the Baser staff that in 2025, we're looking to continue to thrive. What that means is gonna be up to the Baser staff to kind of look at, but probably more importantly, I'm a member of the Mid-America Regional Council, and I made that same line to them. But I made that line to them from the Leavenworth County perspective, about living, working, and playing in Leavenworth County. And specifically highlighting the work that LCDC is doing and the work that the Port Authority is doing, and talking about how we have potential growth opportunities. So when Frank White is up there and he's on the floor and he's talking about what he wants to talk about, Quentin Lucas is up there on the floor talking about what they want to talk about, and the other mayors, then when it comes to me, those are the kind of things that I'm highlighting. Because if someone does not stand up and do things right, and for Baser, Congy, all the other major cities, then we're not going to get that same press. So yes, I'm in the ring, I'm throwing punches, I'm swinging the best I can to let other people know that, hey, we've got a great community called Leavenworth County, and we're looking to thrive in 2025.
I like that.
Thrive in 2025.
You're elected.
And that's all I have.
Did I miss anybody in our communities out there that's on? If not, I'll take it.
Adjourn?
Or anybody, all four, please? Any opposed? Thanks, guys.
I get shot at.
Arlen, you are the best. You're the best at pontificating for our cause.
Let's go and call.
Speaking of analysis, starting the podcast.
There's that.
You wanna be on?
Yeah.
All things, specifically.